of course, your journey has been absolutely incredible. And one part of it has been your sexuality and talking about being openly gay in professional wrestling. And I have been very intrigued by this, to say the least. And one thing that I was very impressed by was the article that you did in the Players Tribune that was out last year.
Yes.
And I wanted to read a quote from that, and because this really took me aback. And it was talking about when you were trying to get on with WWE and you had been rejected. And there was a quote that you said in there that that there was just something you felt like was holding you back. And it was being in the closet and not being able to really live your life the way you wanted to live it and be the person you wanted to be and express it. And you said, but at the time, I think I knew the truth. As long as I was closeted as a wrestler, I wasn't going to reach my full potential because I wasn't going to be able to tap into everything that makes me me. And it kind of was as someone who's followed wrestling since I was a little kid for 40 years. I had always seen sexuality in wrestling as kind of a weapon or a tool, as opposed to like a personality trait. And when I read that article, I was sitting there saying to myself, wow, I never really saw it quite that way, that it would affect somebody like that. Would you mind elaborating on this a little bit and telling people about how that affected you and how it changed when you opened up about this?
Sure. Well, when you're that deep in the closet, like you have to, you're basically living a double life. You're kind of living a lie. You're trying to figure out how to protect yourself in every way possible. So you're navigating life like under pure anxiety at all times. You have to make sure your stories are straight because the people that you're hanging with might out you. So then that turns to a lie. Then you have to remember your lie to the next person, the next person. Yeah, it's always a constant strain or burden on your shoulders. And that kind of bleeds into all areas of life, just in general, interacting with other people and interacting with the wrestlers and, trying to create authentic, genuine friendships with people. And that you're hiding a piece of you. It's hard to have those kinds of genuine connections when you're not yourself. And that bleeds over to the wrestling world because in order for people to connect with you, they got to get to know you. And I wasn't giving them my true self. I was giving them what I wanted them to see and only what I wanted them to see. And when I came out, I felt like all of those walls came crashing down. I was able to connect with people more. I was able to connect with my fellow wrestlers. My friendships with them and my other friends in general got stronger. I was able to connect with all different fans all over the world, other closeted athletes. So it really, really was such a positive thing and a relief, a complete relief that I got to be myself. I didn't have to hide anymore. I didn't have to structure conversations a certain way. And I felt free. And that's basically what it was. And I was able to really focus on being a good performer and figuring out who I was as a character as opposed to figuring out a character and figuring out who I was as a person in actual life. It was just a ton of stress, and I was so glad when it was over with. There was adjustment period when I did first come out because, it's a whole brand new world. But as time went on, I slowly figured myself out and who I was as a person because I was free to do that, and I had that space to because usually everybody else just does it from the moment they're born, and they're free to be themselves, and, they eventually figure out who they are, sometimes a lot earlier.
Right.
So that would be the best way to sum it up. But best decision I've ever made. I've been able to connect with so many people and hear their stories. And that's some of the more proud moments that I have, especially like when Max and I have these autograph signings and such, where we get to, it's almost like grassroots being on the ground and talking to people and connecting with them. They come up to you and tell me how my story has affected them positively. And it's hard not to get emotional every time I hear one.
Yeah, I could only imagine. And it's been, obviously times have changed so much, and, maybe trying to do this back in the 70s, it would have gone very, very differently.
Yeah,
but
probably would have been very good.